There's no loyalty anymore in this game, but just surprised. I'm never shocked by anything, so I'm surprised that All right, welcome to the Indy Drills Podcast. It's a DB podcast where we talk about defending the airways from the offensive attack, the passing attack, to be exact. That's what we're talking about on this podcast. Hope you enjoy your time here. If this is your first time here or you haven't had a chance to do this already, I would consider subscribing, all right? If it is your first time, though, go ahead and try out this episode and then subscribe because, man, who else is talking like this about defensive football in the back end, all right? Bunch of wide receiver talk out there, but we talk DBs here on this show, sponsored by this book right here, 101 DB Tips, everything you need to know about playing defensive back, including training in the offseason, watching film, and all that other good stuff, how to play man zone, all that right here in this book right here, chock full of information that is going to help you in season, out of season, all season. All right. So you need that. Grab yourself a copy of this. All right. Let's get right into the current events. Where this happened several days ago, but it happened in between Indy Drills Podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers did something crazy. They traded the leader of their back end, Minkah Fitzpatrick, back to the Miami Dolphins, the original team that drafted him, in exchange for another legend in Jalen Ramsey. So everyone wants to know who won this trade. Well, okay, time will tell who won this trade. It is a trade that I don't understand, but I'm so far past trying to figure out NFL front offices. It is not something that is for the weak. If you happen to know what NFL front offices are doing, both ahead of time and then after they do it, hey, hit me up. I'd love to know. But a rather weird trade. Minkah Fitzpatrick, to me, and I might be a little biased because I've trained a young man. I've been training him this offseason. It is the type of guy that retires with his team, if they even do that anymore. I think a lot of that for me just kind of went out the window when I saw Justin Simmons get basically sent out of Denver. There's no loyalty like that in this game anymore, both at pro level, college level, high school, youth football. I'm down here in South Florida, so you should know that. These youth football kids will play at 4 or 5 parks before they get to a high school, and then play at 2 or 3 high schools, and then go to college and play in 3, 4 colleges. So there's no loyalty anymore in this game, but just surprised. I'm never shocked by anything, so I'm surprised that the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to part with what I felt to be a potential legend at that position. And we know the kind of guys that have played safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like Minkah Fitzpatrick is just another one in the long line of that. It just seems he won't be finishing his career as a Steeler. And in exchange, you're getting Jalen Ramsey, a guy who is not a safety, can potentially play safety. If there's a corner out there in this league that we feel can make the transition from corner to safety, it would be Jalen Ramsey, who kind of had that position at Florida State before he became a full-time corner in the league. So it's a guy who tackles well. He has a good IQ for the game. These are the things you need to be a good safety in this league. So if that transition needed to be made, I feel like there's a good chance he could go there and do well at that. I think he would do better at it than a Patrick Peterson, who's been primarily a corner in his career, and the Steelers tried moving him inside there. I don't know that worked out all too well. So I'm hoping that's the plan, because there is a void now in that back half of the secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers with Minkah Fitzpatrick out of it, patrolling the back end. He was the kind of the brains of the operation. He is a high IQ football player and provides leadership. You can see that. So he provided that leadership for an entire team, not just the defense. So to remove that from your team is just something I probably didn't see coming. You never know what's happening, what was going on behind the scenes there. No one can ever really know Yes, he trains with me. I don't dig deep into the weeds on that kind of stuff. We're just trying to get guys ready for their season. And even if he were to tell me, I don't know that I would be sharing that on this podcast. I definitely would not be sharing that on this podcast. But just interesting to see them make that move. So this may, though, just be a situation where both teams benefit from the trade being made, as well as both players benefit from the trades being made. It was clear that Jalen Ramsey was not happy in Miami, and Jalen Ramsey tends to get unhappy on the teams that he's on. Did that in Jacksonville. He was happy with the Rams, but for whatever reason, that didn't happen. The relationship didn't continue there, but then he goes to the Dolphins and then, rather quickly becomes discontent with what's going on there. So he's a tough guy to please within the organization. So he was unhappy there. And so, probably forced a trade here. And good for him. He's going to head over to Pittsburgh. Maybe the setup there in Pittsburgh is better for Jalen Ramsey. His numbers were kind of dovetailing a little bit, as you would expect for a guy going into his 10th season. All right, whether you guys realize that or not, Jalen Ramsey's going into his 10th season. You will see some slackness in there as a guy gets older. That's just something to expect. But maybe going and playing in the Steelers system and the way that they play football there might be better suited for him. I'm going to say the same thing for Minkah Fitzpatrick. He did not like the way things were run defensively when he was here as a rookie and asked out of Miami, so to speak, basically demanded a trade and went to the Steelers. Dolphin fans were quite upset about it. I, for one, was not. He was in a system that just did not work for him. They played a lot of cover zero. They're asking him to match up on really quick slot guys. You guys might remember a play where he's one-on-one with Hollywood Brown. That's just not a situation for a safety. That's not you getting the best out of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Can he cover one-on-one? Sure he can. But you're not getting the best out of Minkah Fitzpatrick if you're asking him to do that over and over in a game. Okay, that's just not his deal. What he is really good at is all of the things you saw him doing early on in his career as a Pittsburgh Steeler, sometimes being in the post, sometimes coming down, covering a tight end, covering a slot guy, maybe blitzing here or there, and just being an overall menace. All right. That's the stuff that got him to be a 3-time All-Pro first team guy. That's a guy that's the stuff you saw that got him to be a 5-time Pro Bowler and have 20 career interceptions and forcing fumbles and 4 career pick sixes, that kind of stuff. Didn't seem over the last couple of years that he was in that role anymore, as they had some revolving door, going on there with the safety situation. I think they found their guy in Deshaun Elliott to fill that role that they were looking for, to kind of free Minkah to do some things in the back half. It just didn't materialize very quickly. So perhaps this move back to the Dolphins, who play a totally different system now on defense than they were playing when Minkah was a rookie, he might fit better into what it is that they're doing here and get back to making more plays. Over the last 2 years, only 1 interception for Minkah. He's obviously very talented. I'm looking at him. He's training out there physically, still everything that he was when he started training with me early on in his career. So I don't see any real drop off there physically. He still brings the IQ, and now playing in a system that's more suited for him his second time around as a Dolphin. He may benefit from this trade too. So it may be a situation where there's a draw on this trade and both teams benefit, both players benefit. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Indeed, though, it was a surprise. And I am really intrigued to see how the Steelers actually use Jalen Ramsey. I suppose it will be some at corner and then move him inside some, because they did, whether you guys remember this or not, pick up All-Pro Darius Slay in the offseason, and they already had Joey Porter there. They also have a guy that they love that they drafted a few years ago that came off of an injury, and Corey Treese. So they've got parts back there in that secondary. I just don't know who's going to fill the Minkah Fitzpatrick role of the, career-long safety who can, kind of point out some things and get guys lined up and do that sort of stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see. Moving right along, though, I want to talk about this right here. I'm gonna talk out of this book today because, again, I just feel like if you play or coach, you should have a copy of this. So I'm just going to go through this and give people an opportunity to see the kind of stuff that's in here. I'm not going to go throughout the whole book. This is my recommendation for folks that get a copy of 101 DB Tips. If you did nothing else other than just go through and read a tip a day and apply it to your game, whether you're training or you're in season and you're, trying to make some improvements, just apply the tip that you read that day to whatever you're doing. You're going to improve your play. So the tip I'm going to talk about today is actually tip number 2 in the book, where is eyes out of the break are important. I'm going to just read the first paragraph to you guys. Training your eyes is an underrated practice. It is important as a defensive back to practice coming out of your breaks and finding the receiver with your eyes as you drive to him. It's a small detail that has a big impact on your performance. Oh, and by the way, I go on to not just give you that tip, but give you a full rundown, right? And we're talking about this tip right here, tip number 2, a full rundown on why what I just read to you, that tip is important. A lot of guys come to me, and one of the first things that I notice is that the eyes aren't very disciplined. And that's not a shot against the player. It's just not something that's trained. It's not something that's emphasized a whole lot by trainers and coaches. They're usually more focused on the feet and the hands when they're training a guy. The only time they really try to take any kind of focus on the eyes is when they want a guy to read his key, whether it's an offensive lineman or the number 2 receiver. That's really when they hone in on it. But your eyes are something that has to be trained and talked about literally on all reps, just about everything that you do as a defensive back. This includes for you if you're a guy that goes out to the park and does drills on his own. If you're going out to the park and you're doing drills on your own and you don't pay any attention or little attention to what your eyes are doing while you're doing these drills, you can literally go out there and, it's tough for me to say this, but make yourself worse in an hour's worth of drills if you are not paying attention to what your eyes are doing and you build bad habits with your eyes, just allowing them to be all over the place. I say this to guys, and I'm saying this to you that are watching this right now. When you go out and you're doing drills by yourself, you have to have an imagination. You have to pretend as you're doing that drill that you're in a particular situation. So if you're doing a drill that has something to do with playing zone, then you need to pretend that you are reading your key, if that's the quarterback, all right? Or if that's another receiver, pretend that you're doing that while you're doing the drill. You must train your eyes while you're training your feet, while you're training your hands. You have to do that. You cannot do all this drilling for your hands and your feet and not train your eyes and think you're going to do those later. The eyes are the hardest ones, the hardest element to train. Oh, by the way, they're also the most important thing that it's the most important element in everything that you do as a defensive back. So every time you go out there and train, you need to be training your eyes. Okay. So have an imagination. If it's a man drill and you're in press, you're doing a press drill, pretend that the man is in front of you and you're moving according to his movements. If it's a zone drill, reading your keys, number 2, number 3 receiver, reading the quarterback, whatever the case may be, don't just put your eyes wherever and put all the focus on your feet and your hands. You must train your eyes. Specifically, though, as this tip was talking about, tip number 2, your eyes out of the break, a lot of guys struggle with this. I will do a drill where a guy's supposed to be reading the quarterback and then go break on the receiver, drive to the receiver and go catch the ball. They will leave their eyes on the quarterback. I don't know if you've had this kind of coach before, but I'm one of those coaches where I will say to you, if you see the quarterback throw that ball, you're going to see that receiver catch it. You're going to have a really great view of a great play of a quarterback throwing a ball to a wide receiver. There's little to no chance in most cases that you're going to be able to get your hands on that ball, whether it's for a pass breakup or an interception. It is so important for you to take your focus from your key to the actual destination of that ball, and the destination of that ball is the receiver. Quarterback is not throwing the ball to you. So once you have figured out where it is he's trying to go with that ball, you see the shoulder turn, he's throwing an out route. Once you plant your foot in the ground, take your focus from the quarterback and put it to the receiver because that's where the ball is going. I like to give guys a track analogy. Guys running in the 100 meters do not come out of the blocks and look over to the side to the guy running next to them. They're looking down the lane of the track at the finish line. That is their goal. That is where they're trying to get to. Who are we as DBs trying to get to? Where are we trying to get to out of our break? To the receiver, correct? So there's no sense in us coming out of our breaks, running to the receiver, and having our eyes at the quarterback. Sure, I'm not an idiot. There's some times where the throw is going to be super short, and you are going to keep your eyes on the quarterback. Those moments are few and far in between. Really do get yourself in the habit of training your eyes to go from quarterback to receiver. Furthermore, you will have so much better breaks when you take your eyes and snap them to the focus of the destination that you're going to. You can correct foot problems, break problems just by correcting your eyes. I've seen guys spend so much time trying to fix their feet, little idiosyncrasies, if I could say that, in their footwork as they're trying to come out of their breaks, whether that's out of a pedal or a shuffle of a crossover run. They're going on and on, trying to focus on that and fix that when they can eliminate the foot problem by getting the eyes right. Okay, the eyes are the bigger problem. Fix the eyes. A lot of times it fixes the feet. If you're a guy that looks down at the ground when you make your break, you're going to take an extra step into that ground. You're going to run to what you look at. If you like to look at the quarterback out of the break, you'll be surprised how much slower your feet move or how you take an extra step right there in place looking at the quarterback as opposed to if you look at the receiver. As the moment you plant that foot, you snap your eyes to the receiver, you'll be surprised how fast you get out of your break. You'll be surprised how you can take advantage of, or you can better get your chest down and all of your bodily focus towards that wide receiver. I urge you guys to try that. So if you're listening to this and then you're heading out to go to the park today or tomorrow, do that when you do your drill work on getting out of the break. Really focus on the eyes. Take a little bit of the focus off of your feet. By now, you've been playing defensive back for quite some time, and you've probably been playing football longer than that. Maybe you came from another position. You've been training your feet forever. By now, your feet know what to do. There's a larger chance that your eyes are not as well trained. So you train them yourself. And as coaches, I'm telling you, start moving some of your focus in correcting guys and training your guys and coaching your guys from the footwork to the eyes, and watch how some of those things get corrected. If you've been pounding it over and over about footwork and guys aren't getting it, start shifting some of that attention to their eyes. Watch how the footwork comes together. All right. Eyes out of the break are important. We read that in this book right here, 101 DB tips. Guys, that's just one out of 101 of the tips in here. There are a ton of them. So, again, trainer, player, coach, parent of a defensive back, grab a copy of this right now. There are a ton of tips just like that one that's going to improve your game. Defensive back is made up of a bunch of little small things, tiny little details. But it's why it's difficult for guys to play it, because most people just aren't on the details. The guys that are really good at this, though, they are on the tiny little details, how their feet are supposed to be out of their break, what they're supposed to be doing with their eyes, where their hands are. There are a lot of little tiny details in playing defensive back. And the first thing is knowing what those details are. That's what the book is for. And then going out and executing them. That's going to take some discipline from you. So again, tip number 2, out of the 101 DB tips, eyes out of the break are important. And I just elaborated on the reasons why that is something that you need to do and make yourself a better player. Listen, you hone in on that in these last few weeks that you're training, and you bring that into the season, you will get your hands on more footballs this year. I can guarantee you that. Everyone that I've trained, coached to do that has been the result. You're going to get there sooner. The balls where you were just a hand away or inches away, you're going to now get 1-2 hands on. And if that tip alone is good enough for 2 or 3 more interceptions this season that you weren't going to get, 4 or 5 more pass breakups, then you know what? Reading that tip was more than worth its weight in salt. All right, moving along. Time for the mailbag. And by the way, coming up, all right, you know what? We'll do this right now. The winner of the free copy of 101 DB tips that I promised I'd be giving away this week is the guy that goes by the screen name Jesse James 4599 on YouTube. Congratulations, Jesse James. You have just won yourself a free copy of 101 DB tips. Send me an email right now, cwilson@allliesdbcamp.com. Get you all set up. Get you a copy of this in your hands right now. Get ready to level up this off season, in season, all of the seasons, as I like to say. All right. Nevertheless, I'm going to tell you how you can get, just like Jesse, perhaps get yourself a free copy of 101 DB tips. You're going to do it by commenting on this particular podcast right now in the comment section right below, if you're watching this on YouTube, with your own football question. Okay, I don't care what it is. You have an issue going on out there on the field, whether you're a player, coach, parent. All right, as a parent, there's an issue going on out there. There's always an issue as a defensive back. Something's bothering you. You're getting beat by some kind of throw, some kind of route, can't come out of your break, having a hard time focusing as a DB. You have an issue on there. Let's get that issue taken care of by you asking the proper questions, getting the proper answers, and you're going to do that in this comment section right here. I'm going to select one person that asks a question out of these comments on YouTube, and I'm going to send you a free copy of 101 DB tips. So
hey, Drill Squad. Got a question about football, training, or just want to drop a comment? Do it now. Ask a question in the comments of the YouTube video of the Indy Drills Podcast, and I'll randomly pick one lucky winner to get a free ebook. Don't miss out. Drop your question now, and you could be getting that ebook delivered straight to your inbox. Good luck, and keep grinding.
don't miss out on that. This week's question comes from Carter in Kansas. Says, I'm trying to learn how to play corner. Who do you think I should watch to get better? Carter, really, really great question. You're talking to a guy who, as I've said on this show before, coming up, playing, defensive back in high school, part-time, because I played on offense as well. Taped a lot of games back when there was a VHS. I know some of y'all are going to have to Google that, but Google VHS and see what that machine looked like. And you can even read about how that thing worked. But I used to VHS a lot of games. Obviously, a lot of them were professional games, and just try to watch guys and tailor my try to take something from what these guys, these pros and college guys were doing, and adopt it and add it to my game and try and insert it to what it was we were doing in high school, and just continue to do that throughout the years. However, you are in a different time where there's so much information that is available to you on YouTube. You got stuff like 101 DB tips, my members area. There's a lot of information that's out there for you. So you don't just have to get your information from watching professional football, but you're going to be watching it anyway, and you want to know who to watch. You obviously watch the reigning defensive player of the year, who happened to be a defensive back and happens to be a corner, a guy in Patrick Surtain. Really solid press man technique, just a solid technician all the way around. Definitely a guy for you to look at. But in more specifically for press, he has really good solid press technique, moves with good balance. And that's definitely a guy that you want to watch as you're watching games week in and week out. I still consider a guy like Darius Slay one of the best off the ball guys, guys who plays off man and pedals. That's definitely a guy for you to watch. Obviously, long in the tooth. And I'm assuming that with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he'll still be playing that kind of way. That's not something you want to take away from that guy. So those are two guys right there I would definitely be watching. Outside of that, I would say do yourself a favor and watch a lot of information on YouTube, or consider the resources that I've talked about and learn how defenses work. I know you want to watch guys for technique and all of that stuff. So watch those two guys for sure. And then, just in watching games, pick up what you can from other guys that are playing out there. But with all of the information that's out there and available to you, I would highly recommend that you learn how all of the defenses work, specifically the ones that you're playing in. So if your team runs a lot of cover four, make sure you understand that. And it's good to, even dig deep enough and understand the history of cover four. It will help you understand how things have evolved and makes you learning it even easier for you. But learn how cover two works, cover one, the little nuances of cover one and cover three and matchup zones. Become a student of the game. I cannot stress that to guys enough. Even in this era where there's so much information available to you guys, so many guys don't watch football the way that they need to. I talked in last week's podcast about watching football and how you need to watch football. So, if you want information on that, go ahead and watch last week's podcast and just listen to what I said there. It's super important that you watch football the right way. But watch those couple of guys. Definitely do that. You have other guys that are playing well. Derek Stingley is coming along. So you watch a guy like that. You watch a guy like Denzel Ward, who puts in solid performances year after year. There's a lot of names I could put out there. But in terms of guys that are really honing in and have really, really good technique and stuff that you can watch, those are some names of guys that you can watch. There are other guys out there that are obviously great players, but sometimes they're great players that have their own ways of doing things. They're blessed with a tremendous amount of skill and athleticism. And what they do on the field may not necessarily be something for you to duplicate or try to duplicate, because they're just making use of their special God-given talents. And it's working for them, might not work for you. So really hone in on the guys that use solid technique that is, going to be part of what it is you're trying to do in high school, what your coach is trying to have you do. You definitely want to watch guys that play in the kind of defense that your team runs. So if you're a team that runs a lot of quarters, you're going to want to find teams that play a lot of quarters just to watch how those guys play in those situations. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles are a lot of too high. They play a lot of too high football. And so you might want to watch those guys and watch how the corners play in that system. Quinyon Mitchell, who was a rookie last year, a really, really good rookie, is a guy you might want to watch and watch how he plays in that system if that's what your school and your team runs. Kansas City Chiefs run a lot of man-to-man defense. So maybe you watch the Chiefs and how those guys play press and play man-to-man football and all that. So if you're a big press man team, watch teams that play a lot of press. That's really what I did. We played a lot of press when I was in high school and definitely going into college. So I watched teams that played a lot of press just to watch those guys' techniques and see if I could pick up some little techniques, nuances here or there that I could add to my game that works within the framework of our defense. That's an important part. Don't be out there just watching a guy, but he doesn't play any kind of defense like yours. And so what you're picking up, you really can't apply. That's, a waste of your time. So Carter, that's my recommendation to you. You want good overall stuff. The guys that I named, Patrick Surtain, Darius Slay, will lay a good groundwork for you in terms of press and playing off. Then, there's guys like Denzel Ward, Derek Stingley, those guys that have been recognized over the last few years for their play. You're going to want to watch guys like that and grab what you can from them. And then after that, you're going to want to watch guys that are playing in the kind of system that your team runs, because you can learn how to play your defense from watching them play their defense. So that, and just your general IQ, understand offenses, understand the coverages and the defenses that your team is working, you're going to improve quick, fast, and in a hurry. All right, final topic I want to jump onto today. This one's near and dear to my heart. A lot of you guys that are watching this are going listen, I know the season's coming and you want to perform on the field. You want to win a lot of games. You want to go to the playoffs. You want to win a state championship. Yes, that is the team goal. But for a lot of you, before you even get to that point, you have to win a position battle with another guy or several guys as you're going into this summer. And for you to do that, it's going to take several things for you. So I know if you cared about this battle this offseason, you have been lifting your weights and you've been running and you've been upping your speed and you're doing your thing with your conditioning and you've been hitting the field and trying to get your technique down and do all of your skill work. Excellent. You've taken a great first step in doing the things that you need to do to not only win that job, but be an asset to your team if you indeed succeed in winning that job. However, there are some hidden things that guys need to pay attention to in order for them to win the job. And the reason I'm talking to you guys about this is I didn't really have information on this when I was a player. And that was just how a coach feels, the process that they go through to pick one guy over another, or how they go about making a depth chart. Didn't have any of that information. There weren't any coaches sharing that information with me. I'm happy to do that for you guys if you will listen to what I am telling you and apply it, because I'm telling you this is what happens, okay? Coaches, if all things are equal or semi-equal amongst players that are battling for a position, all right? So there isn't a wide gap between the speed of the players. There isn't a wide gap between the size of the players, and there isn't a wide gap, in the strength of the players. And there really shouldn't be if we're talking about there's a position battle going on. There's really only a position battle when all of the participants and the candidates for the job meet the physical requirements. So I'm going to go on the assumption that all of the players, all of the candidates for the job that's open meet the physical requirements. So when we have that, how does a coach decide who's going to play and who's not? It comes from the little small things that you guys don't pay attention to, you may ignore, that you don't give any attention to. That are things like, I'm going to start with a really simple one. When your coach is talking to you at practice, whether that's in a group setting or one-on-one, make eye contact with that coach. This is really more so for those group situations. So coaches in the individual period, and let me tell you something, the individual period is never long enough for the coach. So he's on limited time. And that means if he's explaining something, he must do it quickly. You must pick it up fast before all of his time runs out. So if a coach is explaining a drill and he's talking to the group and he turns around and he sees guys in the group with their eyes faced the other way, looking down at the ground, he has no way of knowing whether or not you're actually hearing him. Now, if you're looking at him, there's a chance you're maybe not even listening or paying attention, but you sure can fool the coach by looking at him. It's very difficult for guys to look at a person that is speaking and not pick up what it is that they're saying, or at least hearing it. So coaches realize that you kind of listen with your eyes. If a guy's looking somewhere else while the coach is talking to him, the coach is going to feel like what I'm saying to this particular player that's looking elsewhere is not that important. Okay, that's fine. What's now not going to be important to me is his playing time. If what I'm saying to you, explaining this drill, is not important, then your playing time will not be a priority for me. I'm not looking to play you. I don't need the anxiety of putting a player out on the field that I'm not sure listened to me all week, and there's a chance he doesn't know what he's doing out there. Coaches play the guys that they trust. What's the first part of trust? Is just knowing what to do. So if I'm explaining a drill, I need everyone looking at me so I have a good feeling that everyone is hearing the words coming out of my mouth and doing their best to try and understand them so you can go execute the drill. There's nothing worse than explaining a drill and having a guy who's third or fourth in line come and do the drill completely the wrong way. You're slowing down my Indy period that, again, I'm going to tell you is never long enough. So if I've got to stop to come back and explain to you, that bothers me. I'm just going to let you know that. And if I find myself having to continuously do that, I'm going to make a executive decision as a coach and stop explaining to you and just let you do it wrong and move on. That will happen. If it happens enough, all right, obviously a lot of good coaches are there to try and make every player reach their full potential, but at a certain point, and when we're really close to a season or we're in season, don't have time for that. You're either getting it or you're not. So you need to pay attention. So if you're not third or fourth in line, you're coming up and you're doing the drill the right way. So make eye contact with the coach when he's speaking. The next thing is you guys are going to have meetings, all right? Most programs, good programs, you have meetings. Coach install things on the board, or they talk to you about what's going on in practice, how the defense works, how this coverage works. Do yourself a favor and bring yourself a notebook to that meeting. All right? iPad, notebook, something. Take notes, write stuff down, review it later. Okay? Guys are just walking to the meeting with their hands folded on the desk. You better know more about that defense than me, the coach who's explaining it. Otherwise, you better bring at least a piece of paper in there. I'd love for you to be more organized and have a notebook where you keep all of these things centered, or if your playbook allows you to take notes in there, or you're coming in there with, like I said, an iPad or something. I need you writing stuff down. Take notes. Guys that do that make me feel safe as a coach. All right. I just want you to know that coaches are nervous too. Coaches are nervous on game time. Coaches are more nervous game time than they were as players, because as players, you know what you're going to do out on that field. You know how much you prepared. You have confidence in your abilities. I am now trying to figure out if another human being or a group of human beings are ready to do what they need to do out on the field. Do they understand, and are they going to do what it is that I asked them to do? I don't have any more control over that once the ball is put down and kicked off and we're playing the game. I'm relying on 4 or 5 other people to do something. Not me, where I know what I'm doing. And I know that as a player. As a coach, I'm relying on 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7 other guys that are going to be in this game to do their job. So the guys that make me the most comfortable, the guys who took the notes in the meetings, the guys that made eye contact with me as I was explaining a technique or a coverage, those guys make me feel safe. Those are the guys I'm going to put on the field because they're the ones I feel most confident will be in position when we call a defense to make a play. I don't want a guy in the flat when he should be deep when we called cover 3. And if I looked at you while I was explaining something and your eyes were elsewhere and you went and made that mistake in a game, what am I supposed to do when next week comes around? I'm supposed to do that to myself again. I'm supposed to take that player that wasn't paying attention during the week, made a massive mistake in the game, and just throw him out there again so we can cost the team a game, a touchdown, and have the head coach asking me, hey, why is that guy in the game? Why do you keep playing that guy? Maybe you're not that good of a DB coach. Maybe you don't need to be on the staff. You're fired? No way. I'm not going to keep doing that. Your coach is not going to keep doing that. And it won't be personal. It's just that he wants to keep his job. He wants the unit to perform. He wants to help the team win because that's why he was hired. So, yeah, I understand that coach looks like the ultimate authority. All right. He is over you, but he's answering to someone else as well. So take those notes, pay attention. When you're third or fourth in a line, second, third, fourth in the line, someone else did this drill, you better do it right. You better know where you're supposed to be when you get to those walkthroughs. So you know how I told you to take notes after or during the meeting? Review those notes rather quickly, especially if you're a little sketchy on what was installed. Okay, so coach comes in, tells you the coverage we're going to run today, explains it to you. You took some notes like you were supposed to. You leave out of that meeting and you're a little sketchy on where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do. Review those notes. If the notes can't help you, ask another player. If that player can't help you, start asking the coach, get all that done before you go through the walkthrough, because the walkthrough is the next test for you. The walkthrough is, they have the walkthroughs for a reason on your team, just to make sure that the players all understand where they're supposed to be in this coverage that we're running this week against the team that we're playing, that we're trying to beat. If we're running that coverage in a walkthrough, not we're full speed now, in a walkthrough, and you're going to the wrong place, I get nervous as a coach. Your coach is going to get nervous. And now he's considering his options as to who else needs to play here so that we can survive in this game and get guys in the right place. Because again, I don't feel like being nervous as hell when that game comes on Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it is that we're playing. Get it down so that you're going to the right spot during the walkthrough. Now, the couple of other guys that you may be competing with may mess up a few of those in a walkthrough. You want to nail all of those. That's how you start building trust with the coach. So you took notes in a meeting. He saw you doing that. Oh, that's a check mark for you. Now we go out on the field, we're doing a walkthrough, and you know where to be, and maybe those other guys aren't so sure. Even if they moved to the right spot, they were hesitant, but you moved to that spot that you were supposed to be in that walkthrough right away. Now you're building even more with the coach. The walkthrough is going to lead to 7-on-7 and team. And now you have it nailed down as much as possible, and you're going to the right spots in 7-on-7 and team. You're practicing with intent, with purpose, and now you're making me feel more and more safe and secure with you. By the way, you're doing that with a lot of high energy. If you get to a point where you are communicating out on that field and you're also good enough, you know enough to correct the players around you, you got a really good chance of being on that field with me. Coaches play guys that they can trust. So if you get nothing else out of this segment that I just had here on the Indy Drills podcast, get that part. Coaches play guys that they trust. Sure, we do fall in love with guys with characteristics, just like everyone else. A guy that could jump 100 feet in the air or has blistering speed will always catch our attention. But ultimately, who we put on that field are the guys that we trust. So don't come in here and be a great athlete and feel like you don't need to do any of these other things that I talked about, which was make eye contact with the coach, take notes in a meeting, review the notes so that you know where to go in the walkthrough, and then execute in 7-on-7 and team. If you think you're just going to be an athlete and not have to do those things and get on the field, you're going to be sorely mistaken. You're going to be upset. Your dad or your mom or whoever are going to be down at the school talking to the coach over and over. But the truth of the matter is you're failing in those very important areas, and the coach doesn't feel safe enough to put you out on that field. Plain and simple. The guys that play this fall, as we head into this football season, will be the guys that the coach trusts the most. Be the guy that the coach trusts the most. All right. Hope you guys got that in. We sunk that in the heads there. There's a game within a game. All right. And I feel great to be able to bring that to you as a player while you're still a player, because I didn't have that. So I'm giving that to you. You know what else I didn't have when I was a player? This book right here, because it hadn't been written yet, but it's here for you. 101 DB tips. Also, my All Eyes DB Camp members area. We're up to over 300 posts in there right now on all types of things. Strategy, coverages explained, got quizzes in there. We have discussions. I'm starting to do lives in there every week. All kinds of things in there that are going to help you, that come along with not just writing, but diagrams, videos, all kind of great stuff. So if you're a player, a coach, trainer, a dad out there, a mom who has a player who is a defensive back, you got to get them in this. All right. You want them to level up their game. You want them to be a guy that makes plays, has a chance of playing at the next level. You need to get them in the All Eyes DB Camp members area. You need to get this 101 DB tips. It's the investment that will keep paying off for you guys. All right. That's it for me, guys. Don't forget to comment down below with your football question. I know you're struggling with something. Give yourself a chance to win a copy of the 101 DB tips. But more importantly, get your question answered. All right. Get those questions answered so you are prepared to go out there and win the day, win your position, and be a winner when this season comes around. That's it for me. As always, All Eyes DB Camp. Consistency breeds results.